Welcome to Equality Chat. My name is Tanja Woitasczyk, and I am joined here today by the Executive Director and Founder of Cumming Sustainable Agriculture and Art Program, Heather Cumming. Heather works in different parts of Africa, helping villages get access to water. Today, we are here to find out more about her work. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is so wonderful to be here with you and to connect with you. And you are so physically so far away from us. Tell us where you are.
So I'm in Zambia. I'm actually in a town called Livingstone, which is about 10 minutes away from Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls is at the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe, and we share the falls with Zimbabwe. So it's about 10 minutes from the border. My project is not here. I do the art part of my project in Livingstone and also in the village where we live. And then the agriculture part with the water and the nutrition and the food, the hunger issues, is focused in my chiefdom called Simwatachela. I would say it's about 8 hours from here.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's not close. It would be close if the roads were good, but they're not. So they're not roads as most people know what roads should be.
Right. Yes, that does make things a little bit more difficult to get to. I can only imagine. Well, I would love to hear a little more about your project. You and I have been emailing a little bit about it, and I saw your newsletter, and I looked at your website, and it just sounds so fascinating. And
thank you. I think it's a very typical village program, but I think the philosophy behind it is, for me, the part that connects earth, where we are, to spirit. Because what I've been learning, I guess every day of my life, is that love is the only thing that really drives us. It's the only force that is sustainable on the planet. So one of the parts of our project is water wells, because the people that we live with, maybe they walk 4 kilometers, 6 kilometers to get water. Yeah. And I mean, that does a lot to your neck over time, putting the 20-liter container on your head. Even for these African women who have done this their whole lives, it's not good on their neck. Some of them fetch water nearby, but it's a really filthy source. I've seen white water. I've seen water with animal feces floating in it. I've seen little dried up mud holes that people are using to extract their drinking water. That's the water they use for cleaning their bodies, for washing their pots and pans, for bathing their babies. So to me, it just gives so much perspective of thinking of humanity's existing at that level. And I'm concerned with the state of humanity, not because we have a viral outbreak, but because we know that a mass percentage of the world lives like these people do. And for some reason, we haven't collectively changed that. And I understand that for many people, they can't. They physically aren't in a physical condition that they could come to Africa, or they don't have monetary means for an air ticket, or they don't want to, or they have small children. All of these things, I completely understand that. So for me, I would rather just use my whole life for this one thing, even if that's all I do my whole life, is just focus on people having water, which leads to food. Because you can't do anything. I mean, I've had so many days of hunger, and your whole spirit dies. You just don't have any energy. And when my daughter's hungry, she gets really nasty, like angry, spiteful. When I'm hungry, I get depressed, sad, like I'm at my lowest state. And that's the state that people have learned to exist in. Mm-hmm. They've learned to exist at their lowest form. And that's what makes them so strong. If you empower such people, they can probably go a lot farther than those of us who have had comforts our whole lives, because they've been at the bottom of the barrel. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm just moved by these people. Most of them have either zero education, grade 2, grade 4. Some of the men have up to grade 7. Mm-hmm. But the level that their school is like the school doesn't even have pens and pencils. It doesn't even have chairs. That's the school. So even if they have grade 7, grade 9, what would be the equivalent in Western standards? Mm-hmm. So their formal education is very, very low, but their practical education is very, very high. Mm-hmm. It's higher than mine. I'm not going to say about you. I don't know about anyone but myself. Mm-hmm. Their practical knowledge is stunning. So what could they be if they were given those basic things of water, which leads to food? What could they be? Mm-hmm. And right now, it's almost like, in some ways, we have a dead continent of people living at the lowest realm of existence, because every day they wake up, they're hungry. They went to bed hungry. They're eating one meal in a day, and their whole day is spent looking for food that day. Mm-hmm. Then they sleep again. Then the next day, again, the search for food. Yeah. They can't sit around and read. They can't sit around and have a Zoom conversation. They can't play with their children. They can't do anything. Mm-hmm. They're disabled. Yeah. So I just believe that through love, it's not that all things are possible, it's that everything is possible. Mm-hmm. Because the reason I want to help them is because I love them. Yeah. And I can. Mm-hmm. I'm in a position that I can help them. I can use my resources in the States and have people help me help them. I can sit with them, live with them, be with them, know them more deeply and love them more deeply. And then I can understand more deeply how to help them in these intricate ways that if you didn't live with them, you wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's not always easy living in the village with people who have no idea that I have limited resources. Mm-hmm. And everybody needs everything. Right. Everybody needs everything. Mm-hmm. So how do you begin to work with that mass volume of need? You know?
Yeah. How do you? What is your way? How do you make your choice to prioritize where to start?
What I do is I take each and every, I have office hours, 2 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, 10 hours to 13, and then 15 to 18. So that's 10 to 1 p.m. and then 3 to 6 p.m. And sometimes I feel like it's a counseling session. Mm-hmm. Like they come to me for help, but sometimes I do feel like it's counseling. And I use Tonga, the local language, with them. So I get tired
Yeah,
It's not my language. I get tired.
I can relate to that.
I know you can. I know you can. Your brain is on overload when you have to use a different language all the time.
Right, yeah.
It just, so like one person will come, okay, I need a loan. We have a microloan program. We need a loan. Our kids need to go to school. My husband's a drunkard and we have no food. So let's say these are 4 problems. My first target is the microloan because the microloan has 0% interest. They take a loan, they pay the same amount back. With the microloan, you can buy seeds, you can buy some chickens, you can do something, you can buy flour and bake buns and sell them in the village. You can do something that will be an income generating activity. Then with that, you can either have some food for your family, or you can pay the school fees for your child to go to school. I try to put the programs together so that 1 or 2 or 3 problems could be healed by one thing. The husband being a drunkard,
Genius, yeah.
that takes a long time. That takes a long time because she doesn't understand. It's not part of their culture. They just accept like, oh, he's a drunkard. They don't think of it like, oh, I could have done better. I should love myself, not be with a drunkard. Like all of these philosophical things that in the West we would have, they don't think of it like that. They just accept that he's a drunkard, that he's drinking up all of the family money, and the kids can't go to school and they don't have food. So the way that I work with women like that is I just work with them secretly so that the husband doesn't know that they have anything. Because if he knows, then he'll take whatever they have for, even if his kids starve, the wife starves, he doesn't care. He's has a chemical dependency. So I just take each case by case. I try to help everybody. And if I can't help them now, I just put it into the universe that in the future, something will happen that I can help them. Even if I have no idea what that is, I just have complete and total divine surrender that something will happen.
Yeah. Wow, that is beautiful. I'm sure you get to help so many people. What a wonderful passion you have there to help people really have better lives.
They deserve it. They deserve it. They do.
How did you get started with this, and you've been living in Africa for quite a while, right?
Right. I you know the U.S. Peace Corps. Yeah, I just used the Peace Corps to come to Africa because if Peace Corps sent me to Asia or Eastern Europe or South America, I wouldn't have done Peace Corps. I used it to get to Africa because I knew it would be a good skill set for me, and it was, because they teach you, like they send you into the middle of nowhere to your site, and they give you a little medical box with antibiotics, with first aid, with like, it's just, I mean, you can't even imagine in the States, like a doctor just hands the patient like a big toolbox and says, hope you don't get sick. But they gave us such good training. Peace Corps was incredible in that way. They gave us good training. We had a whole language course. So I learned Tonga, I learned to write it and read it.
Oh, wow.
Which is better than just learning how to speak and hear. So, yeah. And so I started with that. And then I was like heartbroken when my time was over. The Peace Corps is a 24-month contract and then 3 months of training. So it's 27 months of service. And I was like, I can't even explain what I felt when I knew I had to leave. It was just like, it didn't make sense. It wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I had just started. Like all the other volunteers were like, oh, good, now I can go to grad school. Oh, good, now I can get a job with the US Embassy. Oh, good, now I can move on to bigger and better things. And I was like, I belong in this village. You know, I belong in this village. That is my bigger and better thing.
Mm.
Like your job at the embassy or your job as a future ambassador, the meaning you have in that is the same meaning that I have in living with illiterate people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just, what's funny is that when I went back to the States, had like a series of cultural issues that were all my own issues actually, and has nothing to do with the culture. It was broken parts of me,
Mm-hmm.
internal parts of me that were broken.
Yeah.
And I just found that it was very hard for me to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Nepal. I was teaching in Nepal. I was living in Nepal. I had to get out of the States. I couldn't really be there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like sensory overload for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very young and I hadn't learned how to cope up with the different cultures and moving between them.
Mm-hmm.
I was young.
Yeah.
And then so randomly, this Zambian man, I was living in the middle of the Himalayan mountains. My mother couldn't even get a letter to me. My sister wrote me letters. There was a post office. I didn't get anything from my family, but this Zambian guy kept writing me letters and said, you need to come back here. You need to come back and help us.
Mm-hmm.
We need water and we need food. I will pay for your air ticket. I will sell cattle,
Wow.
and buy your air ticket if you will come back and do this project. And please, if you don't mind, stay with us for the rest of your life. So it's funny.
Wow.
He did that. He sent me money on Western Union and I came back here and I went straight back to my old village.
Mm-hmm.
And he died not very long after that.
Hmm.
He was HIV positive and he got AIDS. And because, AIDS is what when you have HIV, then you die of AIDS. There's
Mm-hmm.
that weird
Mm-hmm.
discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's confusing. But yeah, it was almost like he was an angel. Like
Yeah.
he sent me money, he brought me back here, he told me what to do, and then he died.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I'm just, yeah,
What a beautiful
I've been here ever
story.
since. Yeah. And my daughter was born in the States and I brought her back here when she was 7 months old for like a trial period to see if I could do it. And at that time, I hadn't started water wells because they're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
We have to hire a drilling company and a drill rig. And we were drinking river water in my village. So I was also drinking the bad water, which I know was a blessing so that I could understand what it to be in a village that didn't have a well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first brought my daughter back, I just breastfed her the whole time because the breast milk has hydration equivalent to water.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't need to drink water because I thought, what am I going to do? I'm not going to give her river water, this little precious baby. I went back to the States for like a year. And when I came back again, we had enough money for the first water well for my project. And we drilled it about 1 kilometer from my house. So my daughter has never known the village without that water well.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind her of that when she gets irritable, like after an office hour day and I'm tired and she's like, Mom, all you care about is the project, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you don't even know, you're not even from the old days. Your generation has only known the village with that water well, but you have no idea what it is for these people who are asking me for help. They don't have water, and you don't know what that is because the whole time you've lived in this village, the well was right there, you know? But the well develops the village exponentially. You can't even compare the development of a village without a well and a village with, a village with a well and a village without a well. You can't even compare them.
That makes so much sense. I mean, it's the basis of everything. If you don't have water, then, I mean, everything else kind of doesn't really matter because you can't live without water.
Well, and the thing too is like some of the water that they have, it's like so disgusting. It smells bad. It's filthy. Yes, you can wash clothes with that. You could technically cook with it if you boil it. I guess you could wash your body with it. But when we're talking about just drinking water, that's why people in Africa die of unknown causes. Well, I think I know the cause. It's the water. It's the water. It's the number one killer in Africa. The statistics are, I think the first cause of death in Africa is diarrhea. The second is malaria. But I don't know how they even do studies on the water, but it's my feeling that water would be number one before diarrhea. What is that doing to your body? If every day you're drinking totally contaminated water with feces in it, with malaria, eggs rotting, what is that doing to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's so unimaginable to so many living in Western countries, right? And who have been in the civilized sort of nations. I'm putting that in quotes because, you know, but who are used to comforts, who are used to having to just turning on the faucet and water comes out of it. And that's just it. I had, when I lived in New York, I had a little bit of an experience of living in a building that didn't have clean water. And I could not, it was right after I moved here from Europe, and I just could not believe, because the standards there are even different, right? So I could not believe that in a country that is rich and that has so many comforts, that the water coming out of my faucet was orange and it smelled like rotten eggs. And I could not, I just could not believe it. And it here, it was an easily fixable issue, right? It wasn't a big deal. You put in a water filtration system, done, right? You just needed the money to make that happen. And that's not opportunity that the people where you are have. They don't just have the money and to put in and dig a well and make water accessible so easily. So even with my little story of a little discomfort with the water, right, is nothing compared to what people are experiencing.
But it is a big deal because that was your first experience in a foreign country, and it's scary anyway. Like the first time I went overseas was England, so I wasn't even dealing with a language barrier, but it's scary. You don't know the place, you don't know who you can trust, or if there's anyone you can trust. And then to have orange rotten egg smelling water. Yeah, I mean, it is a lot, and it's a good lesson about what it is like when you don't have water.
Yeah.
However, you got the lesson. You got it.
Yes, that's exactly what I took away from that. It's like really opening up my mind to, okay, well, not everybody gets to live and be as privileged and fortunate as I am, where I can just turn on the faucet and I do have water, whatever it is now, colored or not. I can fix it where I live, right? But many people just don't have that opportunity. It really, it just made me learn the lesson in a little bit of a deeper way than just the knowing of it, right? It's not like I didn't know people don't have water. but it just made it a little more real and a little more understandable. And so I'm actually at this point grateful for that opportunity, because I probably wouldn't be where I am today in my understanding. So it's been helpful. And water, I think, is going to become such a big issue, I think, for many people, with if we keep going the way we're going right now in our development. And so it's become a topic that I've just thought about a lot, and that I feel like it's very, very important to do something about clean water. Because even here in the States, like, there's so many places where the water is contaminated, and it is, whatever oil and whatever else is happening, and mining. And
the fracking, I know we have in Colorado, that fracking that they're doing, I think, according to my mother, is damaging the water. It's contaminating water sources in various parts of the state. If I understand correctly. I think as human beings, we've got this weird dichotomy going on, where we want to have ultimate surrender, and we want to have ultimate trust, but we just can't. And then we fall back on this sort of greed, fear base that isn't our highest self. It's not our divine self. And the greed drives us to do things that actually doesn't even make logical sense. And the deterioration, the rate of the planet's nature, cutting down forests, like ruining the waters of the ocean, dumping. I had a diagnosable case of asthma when I lived in India for 5.5 months. I went with my daughter on a course in nonviolence at a university that Gandhi made in 1920 for his alternative approaches to education. We studied there. I couldn't breathe by the time I left, came back to the US, loved my doctor, got an appointment like 2 days after I had landed in the States. And she put the thing up my nose, it hurts a little, the testing. She was like, your nostrils, like, I can barely see, they're plugged. You can't breathe, can you? I said, I can't. She had to give me an inhaler. I had to have like a steroid nose drop from living in India. And I've met multiple Indians in other parts of the world that say, I wish I could go back to India. I love it with my whole heart, but I can't live there because I can't breathe.
Yeah.
The air above India is so polluted, and the Ganges, the Indian version of the Nile. The Egyptians have the Nile, the Indians have the Ganga. Their life source, their sacred river, is like drying up. And so we've got this weird thing as human beings where we're killing the things we need the most to live. And we're doing it in the name of money. And that is, it's greed based upon fear. It's a lack of faith that something higher is always there. Because the only reason we're here is because of that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting how you say it defies all logic. It really does. It's very fascinating to watch how we're going through this process. But it's also, I think at this point, more and more people are seeing that things need to shift, and we need to do something about this so that we have water and food and clean air. And like, the air here in Colorado often isn't great either. We have really poor air quality. And I didn't know that before I moved here.
Why?
Yeah, part of it, I think, has to do with the fracking, and it's And
don't tell me.
very recently, we just had the biggest fires in Colorado history. So we've had a lot of smoke in the air as well, and it's been very difficult to breathe because of that. Those have now been contained, so it's not as terrible anymore. But yeah, I didn't, before I moved here, didn't realize that the air quality in Colorado was so poor. And
You would never think it would be.
you wouldn't
We
with
have
the
Rocky
national
Mountain
park.
National
Yes,
Park.
I know, it's so much natural beauty
doesn't-
here.
But you've got that simultaneous greed. And sometimes the most beautiful, like I was telling you before, I'm from Ohio, and we have the Great Lakes. We have Lake Erie just at the top of Ohio, and Ohio is one of those hidden secrets. There's green, it's gorgeous, it's humid and hot. It's good for your skin as we age in the summer. You can see lightning bugs everywhere. It's beautiful. But it's a well-kept secret, I think, that Ohio is beautiful, because a lot of these parts of the country that are like known treasures are suffering for it. Like Colorado, like I'm sure that different parts of Colorado are very overpopulated because everybody wants to be there because it's gorgeous. But it's like, you would never think that we would have to deal with air quality in Colorado.
Right. Yeah, that was very surprising to me for sure. Yeah, well, I see that in your project you're using art. How does that come into play to help you with your projects? Or
I think the art might serve as my sanity piece, the place of keeping me centered. I love art. I can't make art. I love to write. I'm a writer. But I value art as a source of income, not for me, but for artists. I value it as sort of the enhancement of the beauty of a culture, because, you know, culture is a double-edged sword. Culture holds violence, the traditional violence of a society. Culture holds it and keeps it. But culture also has its own unique beauty. As I was saying before, America is such a different culture than Europe, you know? So what I do is I work with, in my remote village, primarily with women, and we have a partner organization that is incredible. They're in Wolf Creek, Oregon. They're called We Moon, and they're like sacred women, goddesses, moon cycles, and astrology, and tarot, and all of this. And they buy art every year from the women in my village and from the women in another village that we work with outside of Livingston. They will only buy art from women. So I work in my remote area with sewing, women, stitching. This year, my daughter did a project helping them make crafts, like Christmas ornaments. It was so cute. So I work with them on that level. And then I work with men and women, mostly men, do the wood carving at the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe at the falls. They carve beautiful pieces, bowls, spoons, little animals, little like faces made out of wood. And I work with painters. I commission them. Some of our supporters for SAP, they'll say like, okay, we need this giraffe. We need an elephant and a giraffe for my child's bedroom. So I'm excited because then I get to come here, show up, see the artist, give him a job. And this year has been particularly horrible because there's no tourists. And these guys at the border, they need the tourism to survive. So they have been hungry. And for me, I said to them, this is such a good lesson for you people in diversification. What African doesn't have a farm? What African, like, you people should not be relying on tourists for your food. You need to diversify. You need to farm and also do your art, you know? You need more security because you shouldn't starve ever again if you can avoid it. So for me, what I love too is like, I have so many people in the States that come to our fundraisers where we sell art. I have a couple people I always think of, like very specific buyers that they just love the art. It's just so colorful. It's so unique. And what I try to do is sell the things in the States for as cheaply as I can. Because all I'm really trying to do is get the money back to hire the person to make more art, if that makes any sense. And if I can sell the stuff for cheap in the States, it means that anybody can buy it. I hate expensive art. I hate it. I've been poor my whole life, and I hate walking into like some shop and the cheapest painting is $100. It's like, no, art should be for everyone. Everybody should have, especially if you want African art in your home, that spreads an energy. If you've always got this little cheetah lurking behind you while you're washing dishes at the sink, there's a little cheetah right there. There's Africa's with you. I want as many people as possible to have pieces of Africa near them, you know? And if the little cheetah is $12, if the little cheetah is, $30, it's a lot. $30 is a lot. You can do a lot for $30. So let's keep the cheetah cheap. Let's get money from the sale of the cheetah, and then we can go back to the artists and give them, every time they see me, I can give them work, So I've tried to provide sort of like a sustainable market for them. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
That's wonderful, and how great that you can keep people employed sort of in that way and keep them, being able to live.
What I'm trying to do is take it to another level. And like I have a guy in the States that buys art for an orphanage that he works with in Russia. And what he wants to do is get the artist that is making a lot of this art, try to help him come to Russia and teach the kids in the orphanage how to make some different, like he carves wood, painting. And like, if I can get these kinds of opportunities for people, that's the best. It's better than me buying the art through my project. Like getting those connections for them, getting Africans to go overseas. They never get to go overseas.
Right.
Just giving them even a fraction of the opportunity that I've had in my life makes me feel more whole. It seems to appreciate the value of all the privilege that I've had in my life. I have had vast privilege. It seems to diminish it that everybody doesn't have the same, or at least something. And here in Africa, it's like these people don't get to travel. They don't get exposure to other cultures like what you and I have had. And then part of their lens is dirty. They can't see, they can only maybe see Western people from the lens of the tourists that come they're wealthy, maybe they're arrogant or something. They don't get that lens of going to the Western country and meeting poor Western people. Or, you see what I'm saying? Like, it helps the whole world if we can all travel more.
Yeah.
You know, if we can, Sorry, go ahead.
You're perfectly fine. It's it definitely broadens the horizon in a way that you just can't when you're staying in the same place all the time, right? It's just so much exposure to different ways of thinking, different ways of doing even the same things, different ways of doing them, and it's very enriching to get to know people and how they do life elsewhere.
Exactly. And it gives you such an appreciation. You can't, all this dark stuff, these sort of like what I call like the darknesses of the human condition, of racism, fear, and not appreciating each other. That all, you're not even conscious of it. The more you travel, the more all of that, it dissipates. Because when you travel, you're vulnerable.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have a lot of money when you're traveling. You're vulnerable. So it means you need the help of the local people.
Yes.
So if you decided that you hate Thai people, you just think they're horrible, you go to Thailand, somebody's going to help you. And then somebody else is going to help you. And then somebody else is going to help you. And suddenly, lo and behold, you love Thai people. It's not even on an intellectual level. It's somewhere subconscious. That's the gift of traveling. And you end up loving everybody because you can't, there's no way out of it.
Yeah.
There's no avoiding it. You just love everybody. And I'm sorry. What were you going to ask me?
No, it was fascinating. Just, I really just so appreciate your sharing and your depth and your big heart. That's what I was just, through everything that you share, your heart is so big. And I'm feeling so grateful that I get to be here with you and I get to hear your thoughts and hear what you do. Yeah.
Oh, me too. And it means so much more that we worked so hard to be able to connect. And now we are.
It does. There's one thing you just said about people appreciating one another more. And there's something that I was intrigued by when I looked at your website. That is that you don't just go in and help people, but they are contributing something in return. Tell me more about that.
Because it's not love if they don't. It's not love if they don't. And the best example I have is my daughter. If every day I cook for her and she doesn't know her way around our kitchen, which is a charcoal brazier and some pots and pans hanging on the wall. That's my kitchen, but just for the metaphor. If I've cooked for her every day, I'm not actually helping her at all. If she has to learn how to cook and take care of herself, and maybe I provide the food and she learns how to cook it, then I'm giving her such a more loving service because she's part of helping herself. You don't need massive amounts of money to do a project. So when it comes to a water well, in the past, I just gave people wells. They would come back, or I shouldn't say people, I should say villages or communities, because our water wells, we have a selection criteria and they need at least 500, 600, 700 people. Like they have to share. I used to very leniently just sort of like pass out these water wells, like, oh, you need one, your community needs one, you need, and then people would come back to me and say, oh, the chain broke, because it's a hand pump, you have to pump it, like, the chain broke, the chain needs greased. The grease is like 30 kwacha, which right now that's like $1.50. They would come to me asking me for this stuff. And I was so offended until I realized that it was all my fault. Mm-hmm. Because I hadn't given them any ownership of the well by just giving it to them. Mm-hmm. So then they thought of me as sort of like the rich mother, father figure that every problem they had, they like, give me 30 kwacha for the grease for the chain, give me a new chain, do this. Now I've got it so that different communities have a different contribution. So we require 25% community contribution. So it, like I said, case by case. If it's a really remote community, then I don't need cash, I need labor. So I've got a grass roof, get over here, fix the roof, need the toilet, we need the new roof on the toilet, or cement. I put cement floors on all of our structures. I buy the cement, someone come out here, do the cement, blah, blah, blah. That's a labor contribution. Other communities, they prefer if they can, put all of their resources together, sell some goats, do whatever, and give some kind of a cash contribution. They have to do something is the bottom line. So it's funny, this year we did 12 wells. In my wildest dreams, never thought we could do 12 in 1 year.
Amazing.
But I'm working with a driller who will basically do anything. He's never told me no once. He's a Zimbabwean guy, very clever, very sharp, and he grew up in a very poor village in Zimbabwe. He's Zimbabwean, and so his heart is in the village. And yes, he needs to earn money, but he's also not after the money part of it. So he gave me very good prices so I could get these 12 wells. So I want to say like 5 or 6 of the communities, their whole job was labor. And it is hard to do labor in the hot season. The sun is it's otherworldly. Mm-hmm. It's so hot. Mm-hmm. And they're sweating and they're working, and maybe they didn't have, we thatched the roofs with these tree fibers. We call them lozi. And the lozi runs out, or we run out of material, so they have to come back, or they have to find them. And my daughter and I were talking about how we developed such intimate relationships with these communities that we're doing the wells with, that when it comes time to do the well, I'm going to start crying, that we want them to have it more than they do. Like that we've gone on this journey with them, and they helped us with our house so that we could live in the village. And now we're helping them with the water so that they can live better. And there's just such a bond. Mm-hmm. It's so different. If I just say, oh, your contribution is to bring some gravel stones for the cement on your water well, that's like me giving them food and telling them that their contribution is bringing the spoon. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's not a contribution. So they have to help. And not having them help is indirectly saying that they have nothing to give. Mm-hmm. That's another part of it.
Yeah.
They have a lot to give. They might be monetarily poor,
yes,
but they're very much wealthier than most Westerners in many ways. So you have to work with them to teach them their own strengths, because they don't remember how powerful they are because of centuries of abuse, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Centuries of abuse. they've forgotten their incredibleness. So.
Wow. Yeah, what a beautiful system. And that, I mean, I so agree with you. It is an exchange, right? If we just give somebody something that's nice and it makes them happier for a minute, and then the problems start and they don't know what to do with it. So, that's wonderful how you've come up with the different systems and the different contributions, and how it's so unique to each situation as well, and what people contribute.
And we have to always adjust things, like every scenario. Each time I think I figured it out, a little twist will come, and I don't know, take a few minutes just laying in my bed in a fetal position, and then something will come to me. My daughter has helped me a lot growing the project because she cooks a lot. She can help with some of the household jobs so that I can focus on the project. That's one aspect of it. But she also talks me through a lot. And there's some part of it that, because she is African, she's very hard on the people in a way that I'm not. Like, she'll say, Mom, they can do it. They can contribute this. Make them rise to that level. Don't put them down. They can do it.
Very wise young woman.
But she's helped. I think the project has grown significantly, even in the last 5 years. She's 10. So maybe the second half of her life, it's grown a lot because I have someone to talk to and work through a lot of the disasters, a lot of the problems. Just have been experiences to grow because I have a companion.
Yeah.
I don't think of her as like, oh, my child, I have to take care of her. I think of it as like, I take care of her and I always do my best, and she takes care of me and she always does her best. But yeah, I mean, the project is nothing more than friendship. So you and I, we have a friendship. If you start emailing me, and I don't mean when I have no internet in the village, but you email me and I never write you back, we don't have a relationship. If that's our only mode of communication and I'm not participating, we don't have any love. We don't have any relationship. So with these people, it's like if I'm just giving them everything and they're just absorbing it, that's not relationship. I want to be with these people, and I can't be with them if I'm giving everything and they're taking everything.
Yeah.
There's such a spiritual component to it, and a lot of freedom because I have a small project. I have a lot of freedom because my project is funded by people who I love, that love me and love what we're doing. And there's that love base. There's no government fund. There's nothing of that nature.
Yeah.
And then it just is it's a love cycle. It's people in the States loving me or the project or the Africans. I'm the channel of trust. Whatever aid they provide, I'm trusted to get it to these people. I love the people, so I want to help them.
Yeah.
And then in turn, the people love these donors who they might never ever meet, that have given them water or taken their kid to school.
What beautiful work you do.
Oh, thank you for listening to me talk for an hour about it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about it. I know it's hard for you to get to internet and electricity and all that. So I'm so grateful that we were able to make this happen and to have this time together and have you share with me the beauty of your projects and how you work with people and how you really are connecting. I mean, this whole relationship building and how you do it is incredibly beautiful, and I'm so touched and so in what's the word, enriched, is enriched a word? Yes. By our conversation, and so inspired. because you make a huge difference in the world and in the lives of these people. And I'm just honored I got to spend this time with you.
Thank you so much. To be honest with you, I always don't think I'm doing very much at all. And I don't know if that's due to an inferiority complex that I have, or it's some weird drive to just keep going higher and further. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think too, it's because the people are so comfortable with my daughter and I that sometimes they don't remember that we are outsiders that have come in. They take us as one of them. And it's funny because when I have visitors come, they like go out of their way for these visitors and they're all nervous and, it's like, oh, these visitors. And I'm like, why don't I get that kind of reception? I show up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really thank you for everything you say. I never feel like I'm doing enough. And I think that's because the deeper I go, the more the vastness is shown to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of like how if you had the opportunity to get in a spaceship and go out to see the moon, you wouldn't just see the moon, you would see the vastness of the universe. And the more you see the vastness, the more vast it becomes.
Yes.
That's the journey. So every village I help, 20 more come to me needing the form to fill it out.
Yes.
So I always say I have an impossible job because it will never finish. I need a few lifetimes on this one. Not one.
Yeah. Well, you are helping many people and their lives are better because of you. Thank you, Heather, so much for being here, for sharing with me all that you've shared. I'm feeling full of gratitude.